Yeah. Meow everybody, this is Frost Kitty Paw. In this short little tutorial, I'm going to go over the blender tool that I made for the Meownyrn cats. So this tool is a blender tool that uses the blender's cycle shaders to bake out a texture for the cats. I chose this over using Substance Painter because A, I don't have Substance Painter, I'm not familiar with it, and Blender is, well, free. Anyone can use it, anyone can download it. It's not necessarily as optimized for something like this as compared to, say, Substance Painter, but it does a pretty good job. It's a little counterintuitive in a lot of the ways that it works, but I've tried to set it up where most people can use it. If you start pressing around buttons in Blender, you might break it, or if you have an underpowered PC, it may not work correctly. In this version, I'm using the 2K version. I call it the potato version, but it's really not potato computer friendly. It's still recommended to have a decent computer. If you can run VR, it should run, but I recommend either using the 2K or the 4K version, depending on what kind of textures you want in the game. For PC VR, I use 4K usually, and make sure the compression stuff sets well enough so it doesn't have too much data space on the servers. And then for Quest, I typically use 2K. In this version, I'm choosing 2K so it doesn't run my computer down. There is an 8K source included. That's 32 float gradients, and at 8K resolution, it's not recommended for most computers. I used it for generating all of the textures that you'll see in the pre-made avatars, but I really don't recommend using it because even on my RTX 3080, it was lagging me at times. The reason for that is there's a lot of masks and pretty large gradients involved, so it can cause some lag on some computers. But in this case, we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how to do this with the 2K version. So how this works is it's the base model, just the model and just the body and the armature over in the hierarchy. And then we have 4 materials. Those are the materials you see in the game, except they're set up a lot different than how it is in the game. So you have the body, eyes, hair, and accessories. I don't recommend touching any of the settings on the material preview side, like the hierarchy right side. Rather use the shader editor on the left side over here. Hopefully it'll load in the same format for you. So I'm going to start with the body. It's the most complex, but once you get a hang of this, you should be able to do all the other shaders pretty easily. I'm not going to cover too much of basic Blender stuff in this. I don't have the screencasts add-on. I don't know where to get that. If people have enough issues with it, I might try to re-record this and go back and show you how to do some more basic stuff, maybe if there's some issues. Or if someone wants to help me convert it to a Substance Painter, maybe I could do that. But all the files in here hopefully would work on a Substance Painter or something else as well. So I'm just going to go right into it. So here we have several color ramp nodes. These are used for controlling the colors. Basically, underneath all of this avatar is a single gradient for each material. Or the eye has 3, but that's another point. I'll get to that later. There's a single gradient underneath that controls how the color looks. So if I go over to the very first one called body, I can make a quick example. If I go to black and white, you can see it starts fading out from the center out. There's a little bit of purple in this one, but the reason I did it this way is it allows you to fine control exactly where gradients stop and start, at least on a sort of macro scale. There's masks that help you control and add different effects like this feet or the bands, or control the hair or other aspects. So each one of these has the gradient texture here. Go in to them and then go out back into this node that I just named a silly name, the Great Gatsby. I don't recommend going to this group node. It's messy as can be. Basically, it's just a bunch of mixed RGB that takes in the previous color, then adds in another one based on a mix factor, which is the mask. Some of those masks are color vertexes, and others are straight up masks I drew, like the stripes here on this avatar's leg and the feet. Those are masks that I drew, and then the another example is the beans. These are just separate meshes that are weight paints. They line up with the rest of the body, but they're separate little islands of mesh that don't connect with anything else. So I just used vertex paints to isolate them based on a special node I made for that. It gets pretty complex, especially when you get into there and you try looking at the linear to RGB converter I had to create and some other junk to make it work. It was a lot of hours to put in just to make this thing work, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out overall. So let's go through each one of them and kind of say what they do. So here's the body. This changed the main body color. We have the hand beans. That'll control these beans on the hand. Let me see if I can get my shift. There we go. So control the beans up here, pad in the beans. And then next one is the feet beans. That's the feet, pretty self-explanatory. And then nose is the nose up here. So if I want to, I'll just reiterate the little example. I can change around these colors. And say I just made it black and white. And actually, if you check this little drop down thing, you can do a flip. Easy if you're having issues and it's not lining up quite you want. So I flipped it. And now it's a white deer kind of like nose. And if I just... There. That looks pretty cute. So give him a black nose real quick. So that's the ease of these things. Allows you to quickly change the colors based on pre-made gradients in it. So here's the whiskers. That'll control for whiskers. And this is the first one that's more interesting. So in order to see the mouth, we'll need to open up the mouth. You can do that by going over on the right side to the triangle thingy. This is where a lot of the mesh vertex information is kept. Under the shape keys, there's two shape keys that we'll probably want to use in here. One is the exploded. It's at the very bottom of this big long list. If we set the value to 1, it takes the whole mesh and it blows it up. And this allows it where you can see all different parts. And now you can see what I was talking about on the feet, where these are separate sort of mesh islands, I don't know what to call them, that are selected through vertex colors, while other things on this body, this main piece, are just painted on. So in here we can now see the mouth and other aspects. This isn't necessarily the easiest to work with. It depends on what you're trying to do. If you want to see it all together, let's go ahead and set the explode back to 0. We can use these other blend shapes to modify different parts of it. These are all the ones that are in game plus a few extra. It is a lot of blend shapes for this model, all on the same total triangle count. I've been talking a little bit with the devs of VRChat, and it may not be the most optimal of setup. So I may come back and make another version. But in the meantime, this is all in the same mesh. So if we want the jaw to be open, it should be a jaw open. I'm just going to bring this a little over so you can see it's jaw left, jaw open. These are all the HCC. HCC just means the Vive face and eye tracking stuff. So I'm going to set the jaw open to 1. That way we can see what's going on inside the mouth. If you're new to the Blender, use the middle mouse button to move around the avatar. If you hold shift with it, it'll move side to side. And the alt will do some snapping. But I always want to get a quick look at the mouth. This one's kind of hard to show. So this gradient control is actually affecting this here in the mouth. So if I hit this, to let me go to 0. Oh, I can't go to 0. I forgot this one. So if I go up from 1, it'll start making it less of a a transition here behind the mouth. It's a very minor one, but if you want a very sharp cut, you can turn it way up. I think it goes all the way to 10,000. Basically, as high as you want, just make it a flat transition between here, between the mouth and the mouth liner. But back to the color ramp. This is for the mouth. So I can control like where I want the black to start in the back. How much forward I want this red to go. I can even change it to a different color. I can make it, you know, purple or whatever suits my fancy for this avatar. Tongue is very similar, so is teeth. In this case, I gave a default kind of grade where it starts really brown near the bottom, goes up to whitish or yellow, and then caps out at yellow for the very top of the fangs. Claws are very similar. You can't see the claws by default. You can either go through the exploded to see them, or let's see. If you go down into the .B category, that's the B stands for body. You'll get all the different things that affects the body. Like I left the glasses on by default. You can also turn on long hair if you want. Look at that. Let's go find the. Here we go. Hand claws. So we'll just turn on all of the claws, both hand and feet, just so we can see what's going on. I didn't separate out between hand or feet for this one. So you can control those here now and see what we're doing. Let's see, eyelashes, that's not shown. It's another blend shape in here under B. I think it's near the top. I fixed. Here we go, eyelashes. Turn those on, you can see the eyelashes now. Those are also a separate little mesh, but all part of the main mesh. We can change the eyelashes. They're intended to be part of the eyeliner, so I recommend using the same colors you use for the eyeliner once you get to that part. Oh, I think I skipped over the eyebrows. Those are down here. That'll affect these up here above the face. There is a blend shape in here somewhere to hide the eyebrows. You can do it endgame. I don't really recommend it. It looks kind of funky without the eyebrows, honestly. But if you want to texture on my eyebrows or do something that works. Be wary of texturing anything special around the eyes. Like the cutoff for the eyeliner, do not put anything like right above the eyeliner. It will smear a lot when the eyes blink or close. That's because there's no separate eyelid. It's just literally the mesh closing in on itself. So anything that's right around the eye may smear quite a bit. I was running into that issue when I was making the blush as well as trying to round out the eyeliner. So be careful when you're working on it. There's a lot of stretching around here in the eye. So some avatar designs with like dots around the eyes may be a little bit harder. I'm sorry for that, but it's kind of how it works on this one. If you find a way around it, let me know, or you know, make your own blend shape and you recommend it, share with me and I'll see if maybe we can add it to the base model. But for right now, I don't recommend painting right next to the eyelid if you can avoid it. So let's see, where was I? Eyelashes. Next one is the face side. That's these three here. I have it set to 0 by default. You can set up to 1. You can see it has its own colors. A lot of these work from 0 to 1, just like how strong you want to control using the mask. I'll set to 0 because I don't necessarily need that. These these tufts up here also same way. So outer ear should be this one on the side. Yep, so that one on the side, and then inner is the other one that's on the inside. So I'm just gonna set those to 0 for now. And the color ramp works just the same. Also, thing to note on these color ramps is you can change from like ease, cardinal, linear, B-spline, and constant. It'll change kind of how it transitions from one color to another. So that's useful. I don't use all the other methods. I just leave it to RGB. I don't know if that changes. I'm assuming it changes to like linear color space and some other color spaces that are a little bit more interesting to work with beyond your use case. I just left it to RGB. This ear's hole just controls the whole ear. I did not give it a mask, which was probably dumb of me. But a lot of characters have different ear colors, so you can control the ears if you need to. Just copy it from the base body if you want to add it back here. Also, a thing to note. I probably should have shown this earlier, but if you go into the viewport on the very bottom, there is the material display options. I'm using the material display. This isn't a texture display or a solid display, it's a material. So you get that by pressing Z and going to material preview. And then right now it's set to combined for render pass on this arrow here. But I recommend actually setting it to diffuse color for most of it. It gets rid of some of the little shadings, the adds in the viewport, as well as emissions and other things that may be affecting how the color looks. And this will, oops, set to wireframe. As you can see, it's a really dense mesh. Oops, that is rendered. That is not what I want. Rendered will give you a similar thing, but it will lag your computer. That's cycles. I just recommend doing the material preview. The only time, I'll get to it later, but the only time you might want to do rendered is if you're trying to add several masks on top. There is a material limit. There's an image limit of around 24 images for material preview. So if your material goes above 24 images used in it, they'll just not display, and it'll just be a pink shader, and you'll have to go to rendered or something else to look at it. Right now, let's just use material if we're going to do a very simple cat. So we're going to do material and diffuse color. Oops, my controllers are trying to go nuts. I guess because I haven't touched them. So let's go back over here. Where was I again? So ears. And then over here, we're going to now look at the inner ear. This is the inner part. It also has a gradient. It's very similar to the one that was inside the mouth, except it can go below one that starts making it just disappear. If you go above one, it makes it sharper and sharper. So that's pretty neat. The very right side of the color ramp is kind of off screen. So you have to bring it up pretty far to, you want that red to that color there to show up really hard. Just something to note. Let's see, next one is the muzzle strength and the muzzle. So this is the first interesting one. This one uses a mask where it's painted onto the body. So you'll see this sort of orangish brown node. What you want to do is click the arrow on it and it'll pop down, and now you can change the image to a different image if you want a different style here. In this case, it'll say in parentheses some sort of letters, images. That's what's corresponding to what's loaded already. Everything is saved into Blender already. So all the external data is packed in. That's why the file sizes are kind of big. I think it's 70 for the potato, and then 70 megabytes for the potato, and like 170 for the 4K. And then the 8K is over a gigabyte. It's pretty big. But what we can do is click on this arrow, and it'll show all the images that are in here. We can use the scroll wheel to scroll through them. For the muzzle mask, everything will start with BBBB, 3 Bs. We can look at the different types. So the first one is just the plain muzzle. Next one is muzzle 1, where it connects to, or muzzle 1 belly, where it connects to the belly. You could also just have the belly turned off, and it'll make sort of a, I think, a triangle like right through the, right below the chest floof. So if you want a different kind of belly, it's also kind of a separate belly you can use that for. And then it'll have a smoothed option where it kind of smooths it out. It's not the best. I had to go through manually. I couldn't find a way to automatically smooth a consistent gradient blur across. If I try to take it into GIMP or something, it would not respect the UV boundaries. and also not factor in the stretching of the UV, so I had to do it by hand using the blur tool. So it's not the best, but it's there if you want the option. Sometimes looks cute. And the other option is muzzle 2, which goes up through the eyes. It's a little bit bigger. And then it's also smooth for that. So I'm just going to leave it there. Strength on this one is just 0 to 1, so it's just there or not there. You can turn it up a little bit, or chain in between if you want. So if you don't want it, you can just set to 0. The muzzle will be, it's actually kind of, has the gradient applied to it really strong, so that's also a thing to note if you don't like this gradient and how it's, you just want your hands to be a different color, sort of light through this gradient, and not your muzzle. You can use this to sort of fake cover it up. Just go to like, let's see, muzzle 1, smoothed, and then just match up the colors with your body and, make sure it's not too strong through in here. But not doing in this case, that's more for the use. You play around, figure out what you like and how it works for your character. So here's the mouth liner. Mouth liner 1 is this sort of background liner. It's the lighter one that goes from like the nose and sort of out. You can hopefully, I don't know how YouTube will compress it, but you can see the difference between the colors here. Mouth liner 2 is the inner part. That's the black. I usually just leave it kind of like darkish gray and then black. These look pretty nice on most avatars. So yeah, and it has a little bump up here. You can repaint if you don't like that, but I found it looks the best when the mouth's closed. Otherwise, you're gonna have like a sort of a black cut across and sort of like a triangle there. It doesn't look as nice, but I found this liner looks decently nice. You can always make your own. You probably have to go through and make a separate, my brain's dying, a separate mask for that. Do you? Eyeliner, I talked about that with the eyelashes. Eyelashes are based on these colors as well. Let's see. I'm gonna turn down the music a little bit. I don't know how, I know it's a little bit quieter in the video, but I don't want that overpowering anything I do. Or annoying me while I work on this. So let's see. The next one's chest floof. That's this floof up here. Very self-explanatory again. It's just, oh yeah, sometimes the shaders will lag when you change values. I'm not sure why it does that, why it has to reload the shader on occasion. Other times it's perfectly fine. The higher the resolution, the more often it has, like the 8K, it's constantly happening. It's constantly lagging my computer. I'm assuming it has to do something with what's loaded into the GPU memory versus CPU or sort of shared memory or other stuff. So it's probably loading different things in and out. But in this case, just going back to the thing, you can change the colors here. Pretty similar to everything else. Tail, that's just the whole tail. Exact same story. You get later on, there's some masks for the tail. Also includes a whole tail, which is probably redundant, but it's mostly for adding these rings and stuff if you want them. Here's like the first real start of the big masks for the body, the arm and leg. So again, it's like the muzzle, except it's CCC 3Cs. All of the masks work the same way. So you can change to smoothed. Upper arm goes a little farther. So I think I'll set to the lower arm. You can set just the fingers. Again, it's a cute little finger effect. No bias here. Probably not because that's on my avatar. So yeah, you get some options to play through. I think this is the one that was used on Mittens. Yeah, thing to note is all the pre-made avatars were made through this system. There's a little more finagling to get things to work, but all the textures and masks here are here, so I just add a few more extra nodes to add additional masks when needed, but everything's here. So we got arm, leg, Next one is the belly mask. So this is the belly. You can choose between 1 or 2. 2 is supposed to be more of like a heart-like shape. Doesn't show up too well, but it's more of a heart-like shape. I don't think it actually looks like if I hid the loof, I think there's actually air in the middle, but it works all right. And then you can have options where it connects through. So thigh 1 just goes a little bit between the thighs, and then thigh 2 goes way down in between. I think, like example, it's very similar to like Shiba's where they have it kind of go down their legs. Hope you can see that. And those are all triple D. And you can set from 0 to 1 if you want. The belly button is actually the last node. I'll get to that in a little bit. So let's see. Next one is the markings. There's 4 different types of markings. These are for, let's see. This is for the head and I think it's the back. Eye spots. So you can add eye spots. Looks a little funky on this one. Oh, that is actually before the liner. Or after liner. Well, if you want to use the markings, I'll get to it afterward, how you can kind of steal some of these nodes and put them over here afterward. But yeah, if you want to use the eye spots, you probably want to recreate the liner. But going back to the rest of them, got the horizontal, which does the big stuff. They have some options to play in here. You can change the color here as well. Let's see. Going up to 2. This is all the rings. So that'd be the rings on the arms and stuff. I'll just show the all for this one just for time's sake. So you show all the rings. There's 3 in the lower part and 2 on the upper for both the arms and legs. And like all the others, you can go from 0 to 1 to fade in and out and change the color using the color up. Markings 3 is the tail. So you get some different tail options. Goes by triple N. Let's see. I guess if you want to, you could theoretically change these to be something else. You don't have to stick with what's here. You could technically put in another L if you wanted to, but I wouldn't. They're not meant to mesh together like that. So let's try this one. It's a little hard to read these names, so you might have to move out this node a little bit to see its name. Tail ones get kind of long, but you can see it's different options. Let's see, 4 is the belly. So in here you can give things, by default it's set really low, but you can turn it up and show the design. This one's just different designs on the belly. So you got a paw, heart, this little crescent kind of effect, the circle that kind of goes in around the back, diamonds and some other stuff. Let's see, this is the belly button. It has this little extra thing here. Don't touch this. This is just for helping sort of beef up the grading a little bit, so it has more control in here of the colors. So it's 0 to 1. Let me change this to something more obvious. So this 0 to 1 is how strong it is and how far out it goes from the center. It's using a vertex color to kind of point where it is. Vertex color, it wasn't painting it too smart. I don't know why. I was having some issues getting it exact, so it's not the best belly button, but it's there. I recommend like a 1 or so. Going up too high gets kind of funky. And you can change the colors here as you see fit to give it different looks and stuff. It's still a little hard to control the color, and that's why there's this conditioner here. But it's still, you probably want the right side a little far down in if you want to control it to a high degree. And that's the main stuff before the Great Gatsby node, which takes them all together. We have a few nodes afterward. Let me find, where's my M key? There's my M key. So I have a few nodes that do some additional effects. This is stockings, and here's an underwear one, sort of boxer, swimsuit kind of thing. I recommend being very careful with this. A naked animal avatar is usually considered PG and okay, but once you put on any underwear-like clothes, it can sometimes be considered inappropriate for different venues. So I recommend being careful when you upload something like this to a platform or whatnot. So be careful of the context, be careful of your audience and all that. It should be noted in the terms of the avatar, but you're responsible for making sure the avatar is appropriate for whatever platform you're using. So just use this and be careful when using this. I didn't use this for any of the pre-mades, but I just left it in here if you wanted it. And then the next node is shirt and pants. What I'm doing here is I'm selecting it and I'm hitting M to hide or show it. I don't recommend doing that on the color nodes over here. It won't act how you think it acts, and your model will start changing weird colors. Because the part you want to hide, the mix node, is actually hidden inside this group node. Theoretically, if you want to, you can tab in here and try to find the mix node. I didn't actually label the mix nodes. A bunch of other stuff is labeled, but the mix nodes themselves aren't labeled. So if you don't like some aspect, you could go in there and hide it. But otherwise, nah, you have to paint over it if you want to change it. So that's how you add these. How I added the stockings and shirt add-ons and the pre-mades was I actually baked out this texture multiple times. So with the 4 different combinations of stockings and shirt turned on and off. And when you're uploading into VR chat and using the YCH form, it'll have 4 different body shaders, and you'll want to, if you want stockings and shirt, you'll have to bake out these textures multiple times, save them out, and put them into the material slots. Otherwise, just, bake out what you want and put it on all 4 materials if you don't plan to use those toggles, or just remove the close motion layer inside the effects animator. That's another option to do that way. That way it won't try to change colors from what your base. I'll probably have a separate video just quickly going over that and how to put in some stuff, but yeah. Let's see. And then if you want to add another mask, what you can do is I have some pre-made masks. If you go to group, there's a lot here, and you can kind of see what's going in between, inside all of these different materials. But the main ones to pay attention to are like Atlas mask, and up here, what this is it's a value lower to higher based on a sheet. I should include it. It's a text file. It'll say R or B or G and has a value, and then what it controls. It'll control different islands in here, just like the hand beans. So it'll control something like the bean pad here if I want to change it. I don't have it open. I don't think it's set to record that here in OBS, but there's a text file which has what these values do and what to set them to. And once you found your value, what you want to do is go to shader, not shader, color, mix RGB, add a mix RGB, then tag this into the factor, and then floating. Oh, this is, let's see. This is, let's say, this is so difficult. I am blind in real life pretty much, and I have this headset on just so I can have this sort of VTuber thing, so it is really hard for me to type right now. Let's see, 0.03, and then, oh, this is blue. That's not gonna help us. Derp. Blue does not affect the body layer, if I remember right. Let's group. Red is the first one I did, and that affects the body mostly. So let's go to like 0.1. They're all in tenths or hundredths, so it's 0.0 x number. It goes up to all the way to 1, but let's see. What is it controlling? I don't know what it's controlling right now. I should have done something by now. Oh, here it goes. Now you can see it's like making the mouth change, and then the teeth, and then you can see as it goes through it, changing other things. So what you need to do is find the number of what you want to control, put it into both the top and the bottom, the lower and upper bound, and it'll target just that item, and you can change its color that way. Another good mask to pay attention to is like the eyeliner. So for illustration purposes, so this is also what happens if you hide like a color ramp or anything over on this left side, you'll get weird effects like this, so I don't recommend doing that. Let's see, let's find, where is the eye spots again? I think it was markings 1, belly, markings 1, here we go. Let's change this to eye spots. So you see it's going over the eyeliner. We don't want that, so let's go into group. It should be in here. Eye gradient, left eye. Inner ear, eye gradient, textures. No. Oh boy, I hope I put it in here. Usually I did. Belly button, belly blush. Face, glasses, inner ear, left ear. Huh. I did not add that. That is weird. It should be its own group. Don't mind me. So this is what's inside these things. It's pretty messy. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Why it's not. Inner ear. Liner mask selector. Oh, that's what it's called. Oops. Okay, now I'm back out. So what we want to do is go to add group. Liner mask selector. I think it's at the bottom of the text file. Say which ones are which. Actually, no, here it says on the right. Never mind. It's here and here. So you want the eye mask. That'll give you the eyeliner. So here we go. We now back in business. We can set up an eyeliner. And if we want we can either set a flat color, or we can just go over here to this gradient. Connect from not the blue, the purple. That's the vector. I want to connect from the yellow. Tag that in here. There we go. And then add a color ramp on top of it, just like all the others. And it's going to move this down here so you can see what we're doing. Add converter, color ramp, and yep, we can now basically recreate a mask. I know this is going to be a little harder for people new to Blender, but everything beyond this point, or before this point, should be pretty simple. So yeah, and then if we want to just paint on the model, we can do that similar way. Just add another color mix RGB. You can change whatever color you want here, red or whatever. And then add texture, image texture. And we can do new, and this is just the same texture process as anything in Blender. I'm not going to go into that. I'm not the best at it. Blender is very finicky when it comes to textures. It doesn't like to save them. It can do weird stuff, not load them correctly. I've had a lot of bugs with the texture painter, and I don't know how to use it very well, but I kind of avoid it when I can. But you can create a texture. I recommend turning this up to like 4K or whatever. I don't have access to a keyboard like I normally do because I am blind, but whatever. And you know, it's multiples of 1024 if you've never done in-game graphics before. You want to do that because that's how it's allocated in space. I can't remember. I think if you do like anything higher, it ends up wasting more space that's not used. You basically just want to create a new texture in here, and then you'll paint on this texture black and white, and it'll go into this mix and it'll show up there. Let's see if I can actually let it, if it'll let me paint on this. I think that selecting here, it'll let me paint. So if I find my tools, I'm not going to go in detail on this one, but yeah. Now I'm painting, and you see it shows up here that I want this red, and it can show up on the avatar. This is totally artistically amazing. What's the logo? What's the logo? How do I trigger some people? Is that the logo? No, how do you... It's that weird ass M thing. Excuse my language. I hope that didn't pick up. But, what is it? The meta logo. I don't know how to draw it. I was thinking about just drawing that, but bring back Oculus. Here we go. Make people happy. I don't know. So you can paint on like that. Change the color here. Do the gradient thing like before. So that's how you add on additional stuff. When you're done, you want to go up to here where you see this random ass. Use my language again with this random texture. Select it. This is telling the material what to bake to when we get to baking. It's AAA, the AAA that signifies the ones I'm going to bake out. I don't think the UV node here is necessary, but this says what UV we want to bake to. You want to make sure that the UV here, you want to have highlighted UV map and also the camera to it that tells us what to bake to. There's two old masks here. These are just used for some of the internal masks like the hands and muzzle and stuff. I originally created those before I had UV Pack Master. They're not as optimized. They have some seam issues. There's a little more stretching in this newer map, but everything in the front is kind of mostly avoided. It mostly doesn't have seams. Everything's packed a lot more efficient. So it's a lot improved overall, just and some minor stretching here and there. You'll see it sometimes in the belly, on one of the base bellies. I think it's belly 1. It'll on the 2K, some of the maps that are not smoothed, you'll have some weird stretching. You'll see those on occasion. It's not too bad, but it's kind of the best I can do while also avoiding mapping issues where if you get too far, you have a lot of seams, or if you're on quests, which highly down mid-maps for whatever reason. I'm not familiar with how mid-map optimization works, but as you get further and further away from an avatar, it will shrink down the texture that's being rendered, and that will cause some bleeding effects because the distance between islands gets smaller as you shrink, and you may have so many islands where there's not much distance between them, and they'll pack together and it'll start bleeding between islands. So that's how the small known map and why the UVs are the way they are. But select the UV map over here, and then select this final texture here. And I'm realizing this is probably going to get pretty long by the end. Sorry, I thought it was going to be shorter, but I did not plan this out, I guess. Or actually, I had a plan of what I was going to talk about, but I didn't realize how long it would take. And then we're going to repeat this process similarly for all the others. Eyes, hair, and accessories. Probably not going to touch on hair because it's very, very similar to that. It's just two different shaders, two different color ramps, one for the short hair and one for the long hair. You can use here in the blend shapes, there'll be .b long hair. You can turn on long hair and there'll be b dot hide short hair, and you can turn off the short hair and turn on long hair. I'm starting to get some jitters. It does not like me today. Not jitters, but VR's starting to misbehave a little bit, so oops. I'm in a corner at my desk, so Steam VR is trying to figure out where I am, but I'm hidden from most of my trackers right now, or my base stations. So anyways, going back to the topic. The eyes is one of the more complex ones. Here at the top, there'll be left eye mask. This is for turning the eye, making the, I think it's called heterochromia, where you have two different eye colors. A lot of characters have that, so I added in. So you can tweak around and change what's what. So here on, and it's kind of counterintuitive, but it's based on why you're looking at the avatar. The left column is the right eye. That's this right one over here, because they're looking at from the mirror reflection of it or whatever. But the left side is the right eye, and the right side is the left eye. So if you want both the eyes to look the same, just set this top up to 0 and just control it through the right eye column. So the top one is a linear gradient. That's sort of just down here at an angle. That looks pretty nice. Yeah, it's based on a little bit of what I was doing with this, which you'll see in my avatar on the side of the screen. This is an old version. I haven't actually painted my own. I've just been trying to pump out all this stuff for everyone. But yeah, if I end up re-recording this video, I'll probably have my finalized version of Frosty soon. So I'll be going through here, and if you have any pains, I'll be with you. Even though I made this tool, so I'm gonna make it for myself again. The 8th, because I made 6 pre-mades. I made a troll avatar, or troll fan art kind of avatar you might see here in this world. This is Water's Edge, where I have you'll be having the public avatars for show. But getting back to it, you can control the linear. This is the radial mask. So the eye has 3 different masks. It has the 3-bit gradients. It has the linear, the radial, and then the sort of rim of the eye. And you control the factors a little bit down here. So if you set up this iris color 2, the radial, up to a high value, oops, that's the reload, it will start using the radial more and more. I didn't use this too heavily in most avatars. Most of them I used the linear. The radial just, I don't know, it doesn't look as nice in my opinion. I did finesse it a little bit and multiply it by the linear inside this node over here for Shadow and I think Snowy, and I think maybe Chester. Some of the pre-mades I did multiply, so I got a little bit of the radial was just up here at the top, and it gave a nice look. But that's sort of a more expert thing. If you want to tab in here, you can figure out which node is which, and then add sort of multiply the linear by the radial to get a nicer radial look, if that's what you want. And then this rim is the rim. If you set it to 0, it really shouldn't be going to neg. Oh, it's just a multiply. It's not a group. But it goes from 0 to above 1. Just kind of makes it a little cleaner transition. You can see it. I don't know if YouTube will show up, but there's a little bit of a fade in here. If you increase upwards, it makes it sharper. But basically 0 to 1. If you want like a small, darkered version, you can set it to like 0.5 or something. That way you still have, you know, those eyes that are a solid color. Like some people, I see their avatars will be like a green eye, and the pupil is like a really dark green. The rim is like a dark green as well, but there's like no black to it. Not traditional, but still pretty on some avatars. And then you'll change the rim color below it. The housing is this part behind the eye. I don't really recommend anything other than white. Maybe like some fancy magical chest arrow cat or something. It was actually the original idea for Chester, but something like that might benefit from changing the whites, but the whites of the eye, I just recommend using it white. Pupil, that's the pupil. Pretty self-explanatory. You can change it. Has a little gradient from in to out. Glint, that's these this like fake cartoony reflection on the eye. Yeah, I just look kind of funny without them. Adding them kind of really help with the cartoony look. You can change them. I think these are white with a very small tinge of color in the middle. Doesn't really show up that well. Probably not even on YouTube at all. But you can change those. Reflect is the center heart. A lot of people actually don't seem to like that. You can turn that off. Inside customization and VR chat, under the expressions, you can customize, I think it's either face or eye. It has its own sub menu. I think I labeled it eye. You can turn off the eye reflect, and that's what this heart is. You can turn off if you don't like it for whatever reason. So yeah, a lot of the pictures I actually turned it off myself because it, a lot of them looked a little better without it. The big emote heart, that's like when you're doing double thumbs up on the full option. Under controls, you can turn to basic where you don't get the special emotes. But I like the special emotes, and this just controls that double eye kind of and love emote thing. You can find it in the help menu as well. Hopefully I'll make also in a video where I go through the options on it. Maybe not tonight, my voice is already wearing out from doing this for so long. I don't talk much. So this is weird for me. And then you have the stars. Let me actually just go ahead and show you what those look like. So if you go to... I think they're under express, so that's actually good that I show you them. So EXPs for extra expressions beyond what Vive offered. So that includes eyebrows, different like confused looks and things you can't, it won't really pick up, or more cartoony in nature anyways. Because the eye tracker, it doesn't really see your eyebrows. It doesn't kind of track your eye shape too much rather than this being wide or closed. So these are some additional stuff you can add. If you're doing your own personalized face tracking using OSC data, I really recommend actually using these and like programming in something using different parameters to kind of guess what your eyes are doing based on your face. So if you're like frowning, maybe make your eyes start to frown a little bit, and if you blink them, it does some additional aspects to kind of puppeteer your face a little better without using eyebrow tracker or whatever, or because there's no way to track it right now. I'm sure future hardware will do it, but yeah, the only way to kind of get eyebrow right now would be like an OSC face, eye tracking. Those are the default things for like Vive Pro or whatever, and combine it with like brainwave reader or something like those. If you've seen them, they control like ears or something, little funny brainwave readers for ears, BCI stuff. You can use some of those to maybe kind of guess your mood and guess your eyebrows. Not the most accurate currently, but that might be a way to kind of use these extra expressions of doing OSC. But back to the thing, the actual part of it, you can turn on these hearts here, and then you can see what's going on. And I think the stars are in here as well. Yes, stars. I'm really hoping this footage does not corrupt, otherwise I'm screwed. I don't want to do this again. But yeah, you can see what you're doing there. So that's the eyes. And yeah, hair is very similar, very self-explanatory. Accessories very similar too. Only thing to note is it has some hidden parts to it, and this emission as well. There is the watermark and the help menu, which are both on this layer, but they're hidden under this great Gatsby thingy or whatever, tiny grass wave, what I called it. So it's in there, it's hidden. Those go to both diffuse and emission. And yeah, if you want to change the watermark because you're an artist, don't remove the watermark, please. That's, it helps show where this came from. It helps people know if they want one, where to find it, because no one's gonna know what this is without that watermark, and then they're gonna be lost, and you might forget too. Well, you forgot it. Things happen over time, but please don't remove the watermark. If you want to edit and you're an artist, there's plenty of black space underneath the link. You can go ahead and put in your credentials, your signature, your whatever. Just please keep that Gumroad link, just so people know where to find this avatar. Pretty please don't do that. It's part of the terms, but still just want to make that clear. So people don't just delete it. It's in here. It's on the emission. The other thing that goes to emission is the watch display. So this color goes both to emission and diffuse. Otherwise, everything in here is pretty self-explanatory. Color band will be this color here. It's very difficult to color. It's mostly gonna favor this black down here at the bottom, sadly. You can make it a solid color, whatever you want. It's a little hard to paint. The color metal is this metal here. It also affects the cap bell, which I don't think I showed it in any of the Gumroad pictures, but under, I think it's hidden here, but you can unhide it. Hide. I must have passed already. Oh, here it's cat bell. You can turn that off. The cat bell shows up, and you can hide the heart tag. And you can look at the cat bell and color that as well as part of the metal. It has a little nose and whiskers. I didn't actually change the color of those. They don't show up too well in here. If I go to combine, maybe you can see it. Yeah, you can see it maybe a little bit. Or his little ears and nose and whisker. Yeah, it's different parts of it. That mask that I was using earlier, the RGB mask with the different lower and upper bounds. If you look at the text, there should be a controller to change these colors if you want to, make these darker or whatever so they stand out more and have a little cat face on there. If you want to use that. But yeah, and the heart center, that was the heart before with the center. Let's see. So that's the center color. Glasses, that's the glass frame up here, and the I think my controller died, lost. Oh, got it back. That's the controller, and why it's got really white. Oh, well, I'll look at that later. Or that's part of the thing we were doing earlier. Let's see. So glasses band, that's the band around the back. Watch band, that's over here on the watch. This is a globally synced watch, uses blend shapes in here to change the numbers. It's basically a stopwatch right now. Theoretically, if you had OSC data, you could just pipe in the real time from your computer. Anyone that's a programmer could probably set that up real fast. I only know about scripting. I really should learn enough to set that up. That doesn't sound too hard, but that's kind of future me if I do that or not. If I do, I'll probably throw it in the Gumroad to share with others if they want to just sync it up that way. Anyways, excuse me. I have the watch body, this purple or bluish part here, the watch face of the black, buttons, and the display is the color of the parts on it. Another other fancy part to here is the text color. Let's see. So this will put on the right side of the collar, put some text. You can change it in here. These are whole numbers. 0 is blank, 1 is A, and it goes up through the alphabet, all caps. There's no lower caps, and then it'll go through numbers, and it basically goes through the keyboard, just holding down shift on different stuff. And with addition of a heart, I think at like 69, I think it's 0 to 69. For each of these, you can have up to 16 letters. I think the 16th letter is a little bit hidden, obscured by the metal, but you can have up to 16. And you can change the color of each letter independently. So I could change this letter here to a pinkish thing. And that's only on the diffuse. And if you know what you're doing, you could technically add to the emission if you really want to, but that's a lot of work. I did it for Shadow and Chester, have colorized letters going through. So, yeah. And then just like the body and everything else, when you're done, just select this AAA texture. I don't think we did that on the eyes, so I'm going to go back and do it on the eyes after I turn this blue down. There we go. Looks a little nicer. I don't know, that was so bad it wasn't bothering me. All this is really just rushed. So it's just demonstrating what you can do. So when you're done, select this AA texture. So let's make sure there's selected on everything. Oh, and before we go ahead and finalize up on how to export this, on the body there is a this extra node that goes into the emissions that controls the blush. The blush is just an emission. It goes, so that's why it's kind of smooth in the in-game. You'll notice it go over a very short period. It'll go from 0 to the max of it. That's because it's a blush. It's our emission. It's not additional material on top or anything, so it's all working using the emission stuff. Pyoming, that's easy to adjust. You can even give it its own controls by locking it with the red little clock thingy. If you're interested, just look up Pyoming locking stuff. But it just controls the emissions for that material on Pyoming. And then for VR chat, the eyes are set to tune. So they don't have emission. The eyes are normally set to have emissions and diffuse, but for Quest, I couldn't really get it to only control the body emissions, so I had to leave the eyes at tune, and the body is a light standard, and it controls the, instead of the intensity, it'll control the color of the emission. So both work, but yeah. So if you want to see it, just unhide it and go to either combined or emission. Emission will just show the emission, so you can see here the eyes were set to be emitting, and here the things were. If I go to explode, I'm going to quickly show you what the watermark looks like. So you'll see all the things emitting. Here's the watermark over here. And the help menu that shows all the avatar stuff. So when you're in game, I think it's under controls expression, you can turn on this on your left hand, this help to get the hand gestures. It's also, I believe, on the Gumroad page, unless I found something better to replace it to kind of show up the avatar, but it's near the back. And you can see the watermark, and there's some black space down here. You can put your signature name if you're a commissioner, or, if you want, you're an artist already, you know what you're doing, just shrink down the logo and move this up and create some more space for your name or whatever. So that's if you want to see the emissions. And let's go back to combine so we can see what we're working on, so we don't need to do much else at this point. So when you're done, just click the AA under here on this triangle thing with the shape properties and stuff. Make sure UVs is set to UV map. I'm hoping that this does not lag me. This 2K, I haven't actually done this on camera. I should have done this beforehand. Hope this does not corrupt the footage, but here under the render section for cycles, you want to set your rendering device as appropriate for your computer. I can't really help you or advise you on what to do. Mine's set to CUDA. I don't think optics or anything approves this because it's not ray tracing, it's just the color pass. And because the color pass, you only need one sample for the render. So mine's set to GPU. I have a GPU that runs pretty fast. If you're having issues or whatnot, set the CPU. The CPU is slower, but it has more RAM and stuff available to it. So if you're crashing from RAM issues, CPU might be a better option for you. I know the 8K version was capping over like 10 gigabytes of VRAM. So for this 2K and the 4K, hopefully a more moderate 8 gigabyte or 4 gigabytes or something is more appropriate. I think most VR ready graphics cards have that, so hopefully that'll work. Because they don't have full float, they're just 16-bit color. Yeah, something to know on the 8K version that I don't recommend using that has 32-bit float. So no, has 32 float. I'm not sure how that differs from the bit to the float, but it has 32 float color. It's max you can do in Blender. That's used for art stuff, so you can more finely control the gradients without any color banding. I'll get to that when I'm done when we render, but that 32 float can help with color banding issues and stuff. So, but all of these, the gradients are saved in 16-bit, and then it'll render out in 16-bit. VR chat and Unity and monitors and everything that I know of, from what I can tell, I'm not a color expert. They all run with 8-bit sRGB, so that's something to note. I'll get into that when we're done rendering. So set up your preferred stuff. Make sure it's set to cycle, supported. I guess experiments might work better. I don't know. It depends on what's being used in that version. I'm on 3.0. 2.93, it should be stayed somewhere on the Gumroad page, but anything below 3.0 works. So if you're using 2.93, it won't load. I can't get to load my older stable version, long-term support version. So just recommend using 3.0. Easy way is just download it on Steam if you're not as familiar with this stuff, and it's free, open source. So yeah. GPU, if you have a good VR graphics card. A lot of you probably maybe struggling a little bit because of the shortages, so hopefully still CPU. And under here, under bake, this is the settings we care about. We're going to set to diffuse, and then uncheck direct and uncheck indirect, and we want to set just the color. Margins, it's set here 2000. That is ridiculously high. You don't actually need that. Let's say like 100 or something probably would be fine. I'm just gonna set to 0 in this case, so because it's a long rendering step at the end of everything. You don't necessarily need to clear, but yeah, this helps with bleed. Since when I'm not actually gonna be using this, I'm just gonna set to 0 to speed up the render. But I recommend something above like 100. I set up really high so that way there's no black, no issue of having some space between the islands. But I'm gonna hit this and pray it doesn't crash the video. So hopefully you still see me. I can see that everything's lagging a bit in the video feed. Oh, 100. Oh, done. I'm alive. Oh yeah, I should have. Another thing, this is you want to have the model selected so it knows what to bake. So be in object mode. I was in texture paint mode. Hopefully it still worked. But when you're done, you'll want to go to, well, it's showing the star, so it's not saved, so that means it worked. So you want to go to image editor, and then it should show your images. And you just go here to A, see what you did, and yeah, rendered out. So this is the texture we created, and now it's ready to go port it into Blender. So just go to image, save as. I don't know if it's gonna show this pop-up menu. Let me just quickly go to it. No, it doesn't show the pop-up menu. But it'll have a pop-up menu. And you'll want to name it, save it somewhere on your computer. You'll have the options on the color from BW, that's black and white. Don't use that unless you're just completely black and white character. No other colors. RGB and RGBA. We don't want RGBA because that's alpha unless you're doing something special with alpha on your shader. Do RGB if you're happy. If you zoom in here and you don't see any weird effects and you're really happy with how this avatar turned out, go ahead and save it with on 8-bit. But if you're seeing any sort of color banding, like I don't know if you can see it on YouTube, but there's a little bit of color banding here in this darker colors. It usually affects dark avatars only, but if you see this color banding, what you want to do is save the image as a 16-bit or 16 depth PNG. I think I should know is you want to save everything as probably PNG. Because Unity will do its own compression when you're uploading to VRChat. So you don't need to worry about JPEG compression stuff yet. You want to keep all your colors and you don't want to double compress and lose all your colors and get weird artifacting stuff. So just go ahead and save as a PNG. 16-bit, if you want to get rid of color banding in another program, I'd recommend getting GIMP. Downloading GIMP, opening up the 16-bit, then going to, I think it's under Image, Color Precision, and setting it to it'll say 16-bit and you want to change it to 8-bit. And then from there, it'll have some options. There's like 3 drop-down boxes. Set them to the first one. It's like the Floyd differing option. What that'll do is it'll make your image a lot larger in file size, sort of compared to just being a standard regular 8-bit image. But it'll create some noise between different bands of color and smartly make it where your gradients will be a lot smoother. I use that for Shadow, Mittens, and Demio to make them look nicer. But if you don't have much banding or you don't mind the banding in your case, you can go ahead and set to 8-bit and save it out and it'll be ready for VRChat. And all you do is just bring it in. Yeah, there is some differing options here in Blender itself under the post-processing stuff. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, post-processing. You can set the differ up, but it only affects the viewport. I can't, even if I click save as render, for some reason it's not applying it to my bakes. But yeah, that's how you bake it out. And then if you want to use the stockings and the shirt and stuff, what you'll want to do is bake out this body texture multiple times. So you get it with the clothes option, with the stockings on and off and all that. Something to note is the toggles in VRChat also include some blend shapes. This puts some minor divots on the arms, or where stocking may be putting some pressure on the arms to sort of like restrict it in, so it adds a little more realism. So if you're just doing like like you're masking out the hands, you're just doing feet or something, you might want to also go into the animation layer and turn off those effects, those blend shapes. That's more of a high level customization. So yeah, that's how to do this. I think it went over more of the options I thought I'd go through, and hopefully that helps. Oh, and then one last one is the emission. You wanna, this will include the emissions for the accessory layer and the body, which is just the blush. So the blush had different colors. We want to change around the blush. You'll need to add the blush texture to all of the body, all the body materials. So keep that in mind. It's near the bottom of Pyoming. I'll hopefully have another tutorial for that. But yeah, yeah. So just do that again. It's the very same process. There's no extra check marks to it. Just go to emit and bake it out. Yeah. So that's how to use this tool. Again, I recommend the 2K or the 4K version based on what you're doing. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, email me, frostkittypaw@gmail or Yahoo. I have both those domains reserved, or both those email addresses reserved, excuse me. Also on Twitter, frostkittypaw there. And then Discord, I think it's frostkittypaw, number 4577, I believe. It should be on the Gumroad or in the checkout at least. And then the link to Discord group I'm trying to work will be there. I'm new to Discord. If it ends up with bots or, bad stuff, I've heard so many bad stories about Discord. If it ends up with stuff that really shouldn't be there and should not exist, then I may shut down the server. But for now, I'm going to try off a server to get some, better feedback, maybe talk to people about OSC and other things going. So, yeah. So reach out to me if you have any questions or you need any help or anything was unclear. Yeah, I've been Frostkittypaw, and have a great, wonderful day. Meow.